First, you must realize that you have no idea before you can know the idea. We scan across all the frequencies if we want to learn anything new. Let us begin.
What has physics done for me lately? Second more, the equation E is equal mc squared. We have now acquired a fateful power to alter and to destroy nature. That's like when you're in physics and you go to Dreamworld saying, this is a physics excursion. Science, what is it all about? The whole of human history all falls in the dust of one stroke of a nail file. You can't really get to grips with evolution unless you realise what an enormous amount of time our own planet is only a tiny part of the vast cosmic tapestry, a starry fabric of worlds yet untold. You're tuned in to what can only be described as the best radio station on this blue dot we call Earth. It is, of course, 4ZZZ, connecting and amplifying voices of our community, be it on your conventional wireless radio, by tuning into the classic frequency of 102.1 FM, digital devices such as DAB or smart speaker, listening via the Community Radio Plus app, or streaming us live from our sensational website at 4ZZZ.org. And of course, you can always listen back to us or any 4ZZZ show for that matter using the ingenious on-demand feature, also found at that URL. We also now have a weekly podcast of the show for your listening pleasure, curated by Toby, a condensed version of the show without the music, which my mum prefers. It's going to be a bit of a rewind show with some recordings done from last year to do with the weird, and we'll hear from Peta, Gabe, Issy, and Jay. For those unfamiliar with the show, we generally start the show with some weird science, then move on to some marine science, and then my personal favourite, the MotoRap with the Maxes, basically any science that is fun and interesting to talk about. We finish the show with some space news. Let's start off with a bit of weird. What do you got for this, Peta?
Me. Okay, and we are doing double marine again. I know, it's just exciting. So this study was actually sent to me by Gabe. So thank you, Gabe, for sending this my way. Actually, no, I found it first and then you sent it my way. Why am I giving you credit?
You're so welcome.
I give you so much credit.
The next 5 minutes of radio are brought to you by yours
Say
truly.
thank you to Gabe.
This is on fish parenting. Now, a lot of people may not know that fish can and do parent. That happens. There are certain breeds of fish that will do what's called like cooperative breeding, I think is what it's called, and then like raising young after that. Some fish enter they'll have like a whole group, like a family group, and then like for anemone fish, the biggest one is the female, and then when she dies, the biggest male in the family group becomes the new female, and they all breed with her.
You know in Nemo, when Nemo's mum dies, spoiler for the first 2 minutes of Nemo.
I haven't seen Nemo.
Max, is going to be beautiful for you. His mum dies, and then but all the eggs are still there. So Marlon, the dad, starts looking after the eggs. In real life, there'd be multiple other males in that anemone. Yeah. Assuming Marlon was the biggest, he'd become the female of that anemone. Anemone.
Yeah. Please say it with me. Anemone. Anyway, so there's this type of fish called a cichlid, and they're really popular in aquariums because they've got really cool little personalities. Like, they're just absolute little firecrackers, and they've done really well in aquariums. But they are one of these like cooperative breeders. So they have a little family unit, and they go around in their family unit. And some researchers from Osaka Metropolitan University, QS ranking.
Osaka Metropolitan.
Metropolitan. 130.
450.
901 to 950. It's a range. Anyway, so some researchers from that university studied this like specific cichlid fish, and they were watching them, and they found that they use physical punishment to promote behaviour. So corporal punishment, especially on the children or the young. I'm not sure if they actually figured out whether it was their children. Likely their children. And so they found, it's been seen before that these fish do use punishment, but what they really wanted to find out was whether it encouraged good behaviour, right? So, or, no, maybe not good's not the word, because how can we decide if a fish's behaviour is good, but
obedient
behaviour that the dominant fish wanted. Fish have really complicated social structures just across the board, by the way. This is not the only fish that does this. Many, many fish have crazy social structures with like one super dominant fish that just lays down the law. So essentially they found the dominant breeders were physically attacking the sort of helpers, including their own offspring, to encourage them to be involved in cooperative activities, such as defending their territory. So the other thing about fish is that they're really, really territorial. If you swim up to an anemone, the dominant female will come out and she'll get really aggressive. I've seen a guy lose a chunk of his finger to an anemone fish because they're so territorial. But in that circumstance, it's just her, because that's her job. She is the big dominant one, big scary one who goes and protects everyone. In cichlids, the big dominant one is doing that, but they expect everyone around them to also be doing that with them, and they'll get aggressive at the young if they don't engage in the behaviour, like if they're not going out and being aggressive, which is quite interesting. So it's weird because, you know, humans have been known to use punishment on children and young to encourage behaviour. I think most psychologists, psychiatrists, and like human development specialists would tell you that it's not very effective in the long run. And I do want to point out that this study didn't really look at like the effects of this over their lifetime, or whether, you know, it's just
Didn't acknowledge if those like cichlid kids were traumatized later in
we
life.
have no idea. We don't know if it's actually better for
Self-assessed.
cichlids.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, did it immediately change their behaviour? And it did. So they found out that the cichlids that used this aggressive punishment on the cichlids around them did have good results. Like the fish would suddenly join in line and do the things and blah, 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 which is sort of what we see in young human children. It's just that when we check young human children down the line, they tend to be pretty screwy adults. And they didn't check that out with the fish, so we don't know whether that might be the reason that cichlids are such absolute crazy fish. Maybe it's just because they were all beaten when they were kids. So yeah, it kind of sheds light some light on the evolution of cooperative behaviour, and it sort of challenges some of the traditional views on intelligence in the animal kingdom, which suggests that fish possess advanced cognitive abilities, which is something we've been saying for a long time, and people still think fish are dumb.
Yeah.
Fish are not dumb.
We know they can count, don't we? So, yeah.
We know they can count. They
that's
keep their kids in line.
Yeah.
You know, kind of interesting.
Thanks for that, Peter. You tune into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me, Max. We're going to hear an old recording from Jay. Let's cue it, part 2 of this. It is up, Jay.
Guys, I have a story today that is quite personal to my heart. When you think about things that might drive height differences.
Why are you laughing, Peter?
Because I'm with Jay.
Like what makes kids in some places grow up short and some of them end up tall. You often think of things like genetics, nutrition, access to healthcare, and so on. But world-renowned biological anthropologist...
That's
You're going to sound like me now.
Barry Bogan has another theory. He reckons
Wait,
height...
no, that's his actual name.
That's his actual name. He reckons height is influenced by social status. So Bogan is a strategic growth researcher, meaning that he researches height in species where the leaders or dominant members of their society grow tall, while the others remain short, like clownfish and meerkats, a couple of different antelope species as well. He reckons that human height reflects a person's social status within their community and also their society's underlying political and economic conditions. For example, there's more of a height gap in unequal societies, and when people move from unequal societies to more equal ones, they tend to end up taller. Bogan reckons this is related to disadvantaged people experiencing more cortisol, the stress hormone, which suppresses growth hormones. Bogan says that in the United States, for example, a cleaner environment and better food certainly help immigrants grow, but so too do many social factors, including living in a safer world and optimism about the future. So, some people think this is rubbish. A sociologist from the Netherlands, and here's another great name for you, his name is Gert Stolp, says that Bogan's theory sounds like manifesting, like if you see taller people and you want to be taller, you can just become taller, which I can personally promise you does not work. But he does note that high social status people tend to be taller than low status people, and tall people even earn more money than short people on average.
Wouldn't that just be like tall people bias though? Like the rest of society is like, oh, you're tall, I should probably pay you a bit more.
Well, yes, but then some of that research shows that, like, for example, that bias comes from people seeing taller people as higher social status, right? So that's how it all works.
So you think it's circulatory. Look, Jay, as a fellow short person, I think there is bias towards tall people in this world, and if I could move to the Netherlands and get taller, I would. I would.
Yeah. Others can see the merit of the point. So increasing social parity could explain why people in Western Europe have been growing taller for the past 140 years, says a historical demographer named Bjorn Kwanger, who is based in the Netherlands, where, yes, children are on average taller at every income bracket than children from other countries. Pediatric endocrinologist Michael Hermanussen looked at military conscript data spanning the 1800s to now and found that if a community was relatively short, then the neighbouring community was likewise also probably short. And he says that when you look at people who live in groups, they're almost all the same in height, and when a certain group grew taller over time, all members of that group grew around the same amount. This would also explain research, such as one in 2020, that looked at more than 1,700 children from some of the poorest and richest areas of Indonesia. They found that based on the height and the skin fold thickness of the kids, none of the kids who would have been considered stunted in their growth were actually malnourished. So they argue that stunting could be a sign of social disadvantage, which would include a lack of access to secure food, rather than driven by diet and malnourishment. This would also explain a growing body of research showing that nutrition interventions do little to improve child growth. With $4 billion per year spent to address stunting, Bogan argues that there needs to be a serious review of public health approaches, saying what might be needed in such cases may not be nutrition supplementation, but programs that alleviate societal inequalities. Now, not everyone is convinced that social status plays any role, let alone a big role. Chris von Ruden, who's an evolutionary anthropologist in Virginia, says gauging social status via height and not, for example, like collective fighting ability or muscle mass is weird. And human societies are complex. Our social networks are fluid, with people moving in and out, and any signal from strategic growth may be swamped out by a heap of other factors. And by the way, growing larger may come with trade-offs. This was the important part of the study for me, because obviously the study is all like, basically, short people suck, which certainly not true. But researchers of strategic growth in meerkats say that allocating the extra resources to growing big may well decrease disease-fighting ability or shorten lifespan. So there you go. What are you really trading off? But the main thing is that's like important about this is like we tend to take height as something that's like a fairly basic human trait that's like, you know, it's just genetics, or like it depends how much you eat when you're little, and like this sort of thing that's quite standard. But actually we know very little about it, and there's research out there saying all kinds of weird and interesting things about what might drive height inequality in society.
Thanks for that, Jay. And the show is No Idea with me, Max, doing a type of rewind show today, and it's part 3 of this. We got this, Gabe.
Well, Max, I've got some stuff ahead of your little bulletin about a moss that may be able to grow on Mars. Now, we have to start this story in one obvious place, and that is the plot of the movie The Martian. Without spoiling the whole movie, is there anyone who would like to give the 20-second synopsis of
dies in the end.
Matt Damon and potatoes?
Potatoes! I grow potatoes on Mars! Is that not the line? I've literally never seen the movie. I just know it is. Is that the line?
That's pretty much it. He makes a little, what do you call them? A habitat on Mars? Is that what they're called?
Bio?
They're like little biosphere things. Plows the soil, mixes his crap and piss into it, grows potatoes
Delicious.
in it. gets the temperature and salinity and humidity and all that stuff right, and grows potatoes. The question that a lot of researchers have been asking, because this is a legitimate field of study, is what could actually survive on Mars, and what potentially would be able to survive on Mars without the need of Matt Damon's tent and excrement, as Max so lovelily put it. So far, previous researchers has looked into microorganisms, algae, lichens, and pieces of plants, particularly plant spores, so the reproductive parts of a lot of plants.
But how could they get there on their own?
Well, they mimic it.
Oh, I see. Sorry, I'm with
They're
you
trying
now.
to
I
mimic
was like,
Mars conditions.
I thought you were saying spores just appeared on Mars, and I was like, no.
That would be a bigger story.
On perseverance.
Yeah. So what this latest research is trying to do, though, is look at mosses. So whole plants, which a moss is, could it survive on Mars?
Isn't moss mixed with lichen?
No, it's a plant.
No. Oh,
Like
what am I thinking?
lichen's a mix of moss and an algae.
Oh, that's why I'm getting confused.
Correct?
Please continue.
I think that's correct. Check that.
Yeah, that's correct.
There we go. The voice of V.
Our fact checker. Yes,
And
that's
moderator. That's it.
Carry on.
Very few plant tests have been done before. And so this is, like I said, the first whole plant that's been tested. It's on a moss with a very lovely scientific name of Centrichia Centrichia caninervis. Centrichia caninervis. There we go. I really thought I was going to get that first time. The moss, it's a tough cookie, this moss. It looks very basic. It just looks like someone didn't pick up their dog's... We're talking a lot about poop in this, but someone didn't pick it up and it got fuzzy.
I think that's a you problem.
Yeah.
Look at yourself.
I'll go and think about that later.
Very
it grows in
Freudian.
Tibet. Yeah. It grows in Antarctica. It grows in circumpolar regions as part of the soil's crust. It grows in America, some of the toughest and most hostile conditions for life on Earth. And so they put it through the ringer to see maybe this could survive on Mars. It's one of these extremophiles, right? These things that loves extreme conditions. So let's see how extreme it can go. So they put it in negative 80 degrees for 5 years, frozen.
Whoa.
Took it out, started growing. They put it in negative 196 degrees. That's
Okay.
liquid nitrogen. They put
Yeah.
it in that for a month. They took it out. It started growing.
Jesus.
They bombarded it with gamma radiation. It survived exposure that would kill most plants. A dose of what they call gray, unit of measurement, so 50 gray would lead to severe convulsions and deaths in humans. Up to 500 gray, this thing seemed to have a growth benefit. It continued growing up to 8,000 gray.
It's like, wow. Oh my God. You guys are great. Thank you.
It's like, light me up. Give me this stuff. They put it then into a Mars simulator, which wasn't perfect, but did have a lot of stuff. It was 95% CO2 air. It was temperatures ranging from negative 60 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. They had high levels of UV. They had low atmospheric pressure all at once.
Mars gets up to 20?
Very, very rarely.
Did they have a
So
little
that-
mini
this was
chopper
one of the-
flying around as well?
I think they probably had a drone flying around. Yep, they got that going in, and a little robot trundling around on slow wheels.
Dropping
and-
off tubes.
Popping off tubes with no plan. No one ever picked them up. They just left the tubes there. That's a joke you're only going to get if you've listened to the last maybe 80 episodes of No Idea. And after 7 days, they took the moss out of the Mars simulator, put it in healthy Earth sand, and 100% of the moss that had been dried out before going into that Mars simulator successfully regenerated. What they say out of this is, well, it survived the conditions. They put it into a greenhouse and it started growing.
Right, but it didn't grow in the Mars
Correct.
simulator.
Yeah, so what they're saying is that it has the environmental resilience to survive a lot of these Mars conditions. They say, one of the researchers says, if there is one plant that is capable of living on Mars, it is that moss. They say maybe they could take them and put them on the surface of Mars and it would continue to just survive.
Yeah, but
Barely.
but then how could it, the whole point is that it's something that could live on Mars, right?
Yeah.
And it's not currently living on Mars, it's surviving on Mars.
Exactly. So they also didn't consider stuff like some toxic chemicals that are thought to be within Martian soils. And there were some other researchers who came out after this and said they weren't really sure if they would be able to, with all the other stuff that Mars has added on top, including the fact, like you mentioned, that it doesn't really get above zero much. So these things seem to be able to survive really low temperatures, but it does probably need to get up into a temperature where the water isn't literally frozen inside of it or dehydrated out of it, and then like it needs to have water in it, not ice, to be able to grow.
Ice
which
in my
means you need to be
veins.
getting above 0 degrees C. And then there was this great quote from Sharon Robinson at University of Wollongong, who basically said it wasn't entirely clear why you'd want to take them to Mars. We can't eat them, although if they were photosynthesizing, they might be able to make a bit of oxygen.
I was wondering this. It was like, well, why do we want to? I understand at
it's
some
there.
point lots of scientists want to colonize Mars, but is this the first step, really?
Maybe
Yeah.
it's because it would be pretty.
That's what the English thought when they got here.
Yeah.
The English did the exact same thing to Australia, and look what happened.
Also, I want to
Yes.
correct some misinformation I spread before. Lichen is actually a symbiotic relationship between algae and fungus. I was only half
Fungus.
concentrating when you asked me that. So I I don't know. I just jumped on
No,
board.
that's good. Thank you for that.
Want to clear the air.
That makes more sense.
That does make more sense. But that's perfect. Thank you.
You tuned into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea with me, Max. Now, it's time to hear about shark teeth from our friendly neighbourhood marine scientist, Peta.
And we're actually going to start off with a quiz for Gabe. So you can relax.
Oh.
Gabe, get nervous. What are the different types of diversity in ecology? There are some major types of diversity in ecology, arguably
Sure.
4.
Like what? Like genetic
That's what you're supposed to
diversity?
tell us.
Well, I don't know what you mean.
Oh,
You
okay.
mean like species diversity, genetic diversity?
And
I don't know.
take his masters away. So there's the main 4 that they teach you are genetic, species, ecosystem, and functional diversity.
I've never learned that before in my life. This is some
That's so many times
weird
before.
textbook ecology crap.
Ridiculous. You've definitely heard of that before. Essentially, those are some big groups. They just describe different areas that you can have diversity that all sort of build up together. So it's not just how many different species you have, that is only one of them. It's also how genetically diverse they are, in the ecosystem diversity, and then functional diversity is how many different jobs do people do? Or do these different species show? Things do. How many different jobs are being done?
Yeah.
Why doesn't Max ever get quizzed?
No.
Max doesn't have a master's in ecology.
I've got a quasi-science degree from the 80s. It wasn't you, kid.
More fun when you pick on Max. For me.
We all love picking on Max, but that doesn't make any sense in that scenario.
It's an easy target. Yeah, that's right.
It is. I really would have thought that would have been an easy one for you. Just you list stuff off the top of your head. So, some examples of different jobs that things can do. I keep saying people. When I say people, I mean fish, animals, trees, whatever. People,
Yeah.
So, how many organisms are doing things like eating dead stuff and turning it back into nutrients? How many are performing photosynthesis, different types of photosynthesis, chemosynthesis? How many are giant roaming predators or small ground-dwelling things that shoot out at you? How many are just fish that just eat stuff and move around? All of those are different jobs, including, yes, just fish. I'm officially putting that in as a job. Sorry, I just noticed the last time I'm really funny. But essentially, the thing I want to talk about this is there's something weird happening with shark diversity because they're getting less functional. Weird thing to say. So, a quick background on sharks' evolutionary history. Sharks have been around forever, 450 million years. And because I don't expect anyone to know what's really happened in the past 450 million years, to put it in perspective, we have had sharks before we had trees, let alone any vertebrates on land. Sharks are ancient. And since they've been around for a while, they've obviously faced a bunch of different environmental challenges as the world has changed in those 450 million years, which caused them to adapt and split. And now there's more than 500 species worldwide. And there's been plenty in the past that have now been extinct. So loads and loads of different species of sharks. And these species play many different ecological roles, from apex predators like the white shark to nutrient transporters, which I thought was a really rough. It's a hard job. You've been called a nutrient transporter because your whole job is just to eat, travel, and then be eaten. That's your entire life goal on the planet.
Or die.
Or die,
Die
yeah.
in a place that wasn't where you ate.
Yeah, take your nutrients down to the bottom of the ocean.
That's it.
Congratulations.
Doesn't
you've
matter
fulfilled your
how
purpose.
little you achieve in life, you've transported some nutrients, and good for you.
You served
true.
the function.
Keep that circle alive.
To an ecologist, you are worthy. Everything you do is something for the planet. One of the kind of fun things I think about paleobiology is that you can somewhat tell a species' ecological role through things like their body size and how and what they ate, right? So if they eat other fish, they're a predator. If they are huge, they're probably a big, scary predator that eats other big things. And most of that you can find out from their teeth, which is lucky for sharks. Why, Gabe?
Oh, because the teeth is pretty much the only bit of them that survives
Yeah.
much at all
As
to look
most of
at
us
for the
know,
fossil record.
sharks are primarily made of cartilage. The only thing they have that is hard, that can fossilize like really easily, is their teeth. So the ocean floor and the rocks beneath it is littered with shark teeth, but not much shark else. So it's pretty lucky that we're able to tell so much from their teeth because you can see their changes over time. So lead author of this study, Jack Cooper, who's been doing his PhD at Swansea University. We have a QS ranking for Swansea.
84.
Oh, 112.
It's 298.
Okay.
Was joined by some other researchers from Swansea and also the University of Zurich.
84.
Oh, they're pretty high up, aren't they? So they'd be like 40.
It's 109. Really great job today, guys. So all of those researchers came together and they sorted and measured 9,000 teeth. 9,000 teeth. There's so many teeth. It's from over 500 species, and they gathered them from museums, literature, basically anywhere they found a shark tooth, they measured that thing, and then they figured out, they tried to figure out what the functional role of that shark whose tooth it was, what they were doing, and at what time. And they found something really odd. For the first 66 million years, or for the last 66 million years, sharks have had incredibly high functional diversity. They did a bunch of different roles in the ocean. Pretty much whatever role you could find, a shark was doing it somewhere. But about 10 million years ago, things started to decline, and they haven't stopped. So despite the wide variety of sharks in our oceans today, they're actually at their lowest functional diversity ever, currently. And so by quantifying the ecological contributions of the individual species, the researchers were actually able to tell that the observed decline was driven by the loss of ecologically unique and specialized species. So, species like the megalodon, which, as we know, was the largest shark that ever lived. And
Is
its
the
apex-
largest shark that ever lived.
Gabriel, do not get me started. Was. It's dead. It's gone. No, we would know if there was a megalodon around today, and there aren't, which is why they have less functional diversity, because there are no giant sharks, even similar to the megalodon, roaming around today doing the same job that it did. That job is gone. No one's doing that. No one's doing it like the megalodon did. Past tense, very strong here. In all, they actually found that extinct sharks as a whole contributed a wider range of roles than those that are still living, which I thought was interesting. When I thought about it a little more, though, I did think, maybe it's, when we had those real climatological extremes and we had time to adapt to them, and then those extremes went away. Maybe it's all of the sharks built in the extremes that then became extinct when those extremes went away, because those would be, intense circumstances that they may have adapted to, and then those adaptations weren't needed. So that could explain to me why that happened. That is not a real explanation. I'm not part of the project. It was just my thoughts. But I also thought it was exciting because it's one of the rare cases where this is not our fault. Everyone party, 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 party. 10 million years ago, not our fault. We did not start this. We are finishing it though. So we are fishing the hell out of sharks. We are making most of them threatened. We are currently the biggest threat to sharks on the planet, and we are a huge one at that. While we didn't start this, we really need to make sure we don't finish this, because sharks are incredibly important, and us quickly pushing the further and swift decline of their functional diversity is incredibly important to stop, because they're critical to our oceans. We need them to be performing all of these jobs, and as we work our way through killing most of the sharks in the ocean, we are losing all of those jobs. Sharks are incredibly critical to our oceans. So yeah, that was my story. I thought that was really weird that we've lost so much functional diversity in sharks. They did not provide a reason as to why it started than 10 million years ago.
Did other ocean creatures take up the slack and fulfill those functions that the sharks no longer do?
In some cases, they definitely would have. But so for like necessary functions, it would happen. But things like the megalodon obviously haven't. There is no predator that alive today that functions like that. It has been filled by a different large being though. So whales are now the largest creatures to ever live, blue whales. So they're not obviously apex predators. They just sort of eat krill. Not the same role as the megalodon, but the megalodon wouldn't really have a role to fill in today's ecosystem.
Thanks for that, Peter. In some unseen footage, did you see those dolphins that greeted them when they landed? Mm-hmm. Well, apparently some were seen leaving Earth and saying so long and thanks for all the fish.
Oh my God. I was wondering where you were going.
Oh my God.
You tuned into 4ZZZ. The show is No Idea with me, Max. We've got Issy.
I've always been here.
Yes, right. You're just here for the subscribing segment.
I am. The
show.
most important segment,
Exactly.
I'd argue.
Yeah. So if you want to subscribe to 4ZZZ, you can go to our website at 4zzz.org.au/support. For as little as $25 if you're a pet or under 18. A concession is $40. A full subscription will set you back $80. A passionate subscriber, $140. And a super sub, $500. And you get your name written downstairs in gold ink, isn't it?
Yes, you do.
Yeah. Okay.
Join the mirage of other people that have also super subbed.
Yes.
So not only do you get a warm inner glow, but every month we do a prize as well. We have some lovely organizations that reach out and spread some more warm inner glow. This month we have the non-mixed 6-stopper pack, and if you have listened to us in the past couple of weeks, we have been raving about this because some of these flavors sound absolutely delicious, like salted raspberry and chamomile, caramelized peach and pear and kombu, which is seaweed. Yeah. I'm really liking the toasted cinnamon and yuzu, which is a Japanese lemon. Yeah. These are all non-alcoholic drinks that can be paired with food like a red wine or like your traditional wines. So a special thank you to Non for taking care of our subscribers. So you go into the running if you subscribe in July to receive this kind of mixed pack. But not only do you receive that, you'll receive a warm inner glow, and whilst you're there, get some merch as well. We've had some brand new merch come out as well, including some gorgeous little cups, like enamel cups. So they are so
I should
gorgeous.
go and check them out.
You should. So 4ZZZ.org.au/support if you want to get some sick merch, and yeah.
Okay, it's time for the best part of the show. Loosely defined as science, yeah, you already know. Everybody listens to 4ZZZ just to hear us talking about what Butters just did. Subscriptions just keep rolling like the tires on a car. But something tells me that our science curves won't go far. But unlike an engine, I won't keep you in suspension. We're all here to hear him talk, so let's give him attention. You're not ready for when he starts rapping. Gonna hand the mic to Max, and I'm not talking Van Stappen.
Now, the reason I play this doesn't count for this year's guessing game that we thought, where Gabe said we'll play the anthem 8 times this year if Oscar wins, and then Maximillian said 9, and Issy, you said 10, and I said 12. But I play this because it has been exactly 1 year since Oscar Piastri won his first F1 race, and it was in Hungary. And Oscar won in somewhat controversial way, Maximillian. Tell us about it.
Oh, yes. This was the swap, wasn't it?
It was the swap.
Where Lando got a bit petulant out front. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. It was a bit of a bizarre first win, but, you take what you can get, I think.
You do. He now has 7 wins in total with 20 podium appearances. So hopefully those stats will change this weekend because F1 returns.
Finally.
Yeah, it'll be in Belgium on the famous Spa circuit. And it's a sprint weekend.
I just want to say Eau Rouge. I want to say Radion. I want to say...
Maybe we might hear the anthem twice. Because if he wins the sprint and the main race, that could be cool.
Yeah. And it counts, yeah? Because it is like literally number of times played.
I think so.
And jumping in
win's a win.
on social media, Oscar Piastri was seen doing a little bit of racing sims, sim racing for Spa as well.
Yes.
So a rogue TikTok video of him talking through all the corners and different things like that. So I'm hoping that he does hit 10. Not only because I will win, but also because I want to see him back up on the podium.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Anyway, a sprint weekend means there's only one practice session, and I'm a bit concerned because a lot of the cars are bringing upgrades, and how are they going to get them in the window just with one practice session? Because you usually get 3 practice sessions.
I mean, that's what the simulator's for. You know,
yes.
you've just got to go for it.
But if it doesn't correlate properly, and that's why they're worried about Max Verstappen's car not working straight out of the gate. Because they're bringing
Red Bull
upgrades.
have had some issues with the upgrades, broadly speaking, to where they've developed their car currently, where they've gone from the outright fastest to sort of slower than Ferrari, we might even say,
exactly.
almost fourth.
And this could potentially,
it's very important that they get this right, for the rest of the season.
Because if come the next 2 races, if Max Verstappen's in only 4th in the drivers' championship, is that he can activate his clause to exit Red Bull?
Well, we don't know what the clauses are, really.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, these contracts aren't really paper they're printed on.
No.
If something wants to happen, it will
It's only
happen.
money.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
if Mercedes want Verstappen, they will write the...
And the boss of Mercedes wants him. I'm not talking about the boss, but not the team principal, but the actual on the board Mercedes boss. He wants him big time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we had the shock announcement of who left the team, Red Bull. He's been pushed sideways, CEO.
Yeah, he's on you say gardening leave. They still pay him. He's still a Red Bull racing employee.
Yes.
He's just no longer CEO nor team principal.
Exactly. So who's replacing him?
We've had Laurent Mekies get the bump up from the Racing Bulls. Now, he's had a really interesting career. And a lot of people are saying that this is part of Red Bull's shift to wanting to have more, engineering at the sort of top of the org chart.
Right.
Rather than... it's sort of in line with what other teams are doing, like Sauber, Ferrari tried it for a bit.
I don't think Zach Brown's that technical, is he?
But Andrea Stella, the team principal, is.
Oh, yes, true. Okay. To make up for that deficit, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
Also Ferrari alum like Laurent Mekies. So he actually got his start with the Racing Bulls, but before they were the Racing Bulls, before they were in fact owned by Red Bull. He began at Arrows, but then he ended up at Minardi, where he spent a good chunk.
Yeah.
And then he ends up at the FIA. And I remember this being a controversy because he went from the FIA to Ferrari. Which, all the classic memes of, the FIA love Ferrari, that Italian bias. And there were some concerns back then. And so he was deputy team principal and sporting director at Ferrari for a good chunk.
Yep.
Then the position opened up at Racing Bulls at the top of the chart. He went there and...
Because they're based in Italy
now
anyway.
Now he's CEO of Red Bull Racing, crazy.
Yeah.
Really stratospheric rise, I think. But again, he's been around a while. These things, it's a man with a bunch of experience on both sides of the paddock.
Yeah.
So really good stuff.
Alan Permain?
Yeah. So he's now taken over for Laurent at Racing Bulls.
Yes.
And he goes back a long way. He's been he's like a Team Enstone lifer, as I understand. In the heady days of Michael Schumacher winning everything in the Benetton, which definitely didn't have traction control. But he was very unceremoniously let go. I think it was around the time that they fired Otmar as well.
Yeah.
From Alpine, and of course gets picked up immediately by Red Bull. They know what he's worth. And now he's the CEO and team. Well, I don't know if he's the CEO, but he's definitely the team principal of Racing Bulls. I think Peter Bayer is still CEO there. But yeah, it is interesting that Red Bull did not opt because obviously they've got the split, team principal CEO set up at Racing Bulls. It's interesting that they didn't split that role at Red Bull itself.
Yeah.
Perhaps a more, I guess, how do you say, a better transition period would have almost been to. You almost keep Christian on for the rest of the year, but only in the capacity as CEO. And you get a little bit of continuity then with 26. But maybe if you do want that engineering thing, as you say, with Zach Brown, Andrea Stella, you've got this, actually incredible businessman at the top of the org chart, but then one step down, you could actually have the engineering sort of, know-how, if that's what they're going for. It just seems like, I think we're still trying to wrap our heads around exactly why you let go of Christian Horner.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's built that team to winning standard twice over. And then you sort of just, it just feels really unceremonious, I guess. I don't know.
Anyway, looking at the times, practice 1 will be on Friday, and it's at 8:30 our time, so that's doable at night. And then the sprint itself is at 8 p.m. on Saturday night, and the race itself will be at 11 o'clock on Sunday night. So I'll probably fall asleep before that time, but that's all right. Or at least I'll do the sprint.
A few sparkling wines before then.
That's right. Okay, NASCAR happened last weekend, and Shane Van Gisbergen started from 6th. This was SVG's best chance of battling it out at the front on an oval circuit. Unfortunately, he sustained a front right tyre puncture right from the get-go, so he had to pull in and get his tyres changed. And because they're oval laps, cars do a circuit pretty quickly, and he's sort of 4 laps down before he got out of the pits. So it was race over for him. He just turned it into a test, basically, just to learn what he can do on an oval circuit with a NASCAR Cup car. Sail GP happened on the weekend also. It was in the UK. New Zealand is back to their winning ways. It was held on the waters of Portsmouth. New Zealand held off home favourites Team GBR and Team Switzerland in the finals race. Team Australia remains in second position for the overall championship. The next race will be held in Germany, August 16. Let's hope. This is what, instead, if you're not going for Team Australia.
Connection.
Yeah, Sebastian Vettel owns the German team, so we'll see if they can win on home waters.
He's now said that he does not want to return to.
Really?
Sebastian Vettel.
So, he's basically spent the past, half decade trying to get back on the not to be. He's acknowledged that his time is done.
I thought he was going to be like a team principal or something.
Unfortunately, it sounds like that was very much went out the window with Christian.
Yes, okay.
Unfortunately, yeah, but it is.
Formula One Academy, what do you got for us, Issy?
I have a few different things. Testing is currently underway for the girls in their second in-test in the season in the familiar circuit of Zandvoort, which I had to look up the pronunciation for.
That's wildly Dutch.
Yes. They were testing yesterday and will be testing today. So with 12 hours of track time available across the 2 days with
That's a really meaty session.
It is a really meaty session. It's a good time for the teams to assess their drivers and also driving strategy. 5 slick tyres and 2 wet tyres are provided for the girls, but conditions are looking very clear.
5 sets.
5 sets, yes. Yeah. So we've currently...
it'd be a bit difficult with just 5.
Yeah, just 5. I was going to say, thank you for
replace 1.
Yes. But we've had some surprise runners coming through. So Alicia Pomolsky was the first to beat in the opening day of in-season testing, who set a 1 minute 38 seconds .04 in the final minutes of the afternoon session, basically snubbing Maya Wegg to the top position. But Chloe Chambers put together a last improvement coming through. Looking at the field for the girls currently in this kind of mid-season testing, Doreen Pan currently tops the drivers' standing after scoring a win and a podium finish in Montreal. She has a 20-point advantage over the American Chloe Chambers for Red Bull Ford. Additionally, we have rookie Ella Lloyd, who's the highest placed rookie in the standings, standing 4th on 67 points. Additionally, this time last year, I was also talking about their testing. 2024 champion Abby Pulling set the pace, topped 3 out of the 4 sessions, and ended up winning the championship. So testing is a good way to kind of see who might pull through in the final end of the season. But we've got the second half of testing underway at the moment. So I'll touch base with you guys next week and see who came out on top.
And Abby Pulling...
Is she driving at the moment?
Who?
Abby Pulling. No, not at the moment.
E.
So Formula E at the moment.
E.
For the Formula One.
Nice.
For the Formula One Academy, you only get 2 years. If you end up winning a championship, your next year gets paid for. Right. So she's currently got picked up by Formula E, which I think we've spoken before, seems to be, they also picked up Bianca as well.
Yes, okay, from McLaren.
From McLaren, so she's also racing in Formula E. So Formula E might be the next pipeline, but no doubt there will be representatives from Formula E at these testing events to kind of keep an eye on who's coming out. Dorian Pan is an example of someone who's about to graduate from the academy.
Yes.
So her showing off on this main stage would be fantastic.
Yeah,
because, as I understand, last season it was basically the Dorian Pan and...
Abby Pulling
show.
Abby Pulling, yeah. Oh, we got a subscriber.
We did.
Finally, these...
It's been turned down a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, I'll do it again. Sorry.
There we go.
Additionally, this testing is going to make the next round 5 of the women's race really interesting because it is in Zandvoort.
Yeah.
So it's super familiar track to everyone. So it'll be less who's been on the grid the longest and more who can apply the right strategy. So this will be super exciting, and that's in the 29th of August to the 31st.
Now, do we dare talk about driver rumours? Who's going to drive for Cadillac?
Oh.
Well, I mean, we'll be wrong anyway. So
Exactly.
it's all good. Yeah.
Hence the rumour bit. So Mick Schumacher could be a shoe-in, maybe?
Nah.
Valtteri Bottas, I'm really hoping
Maybe,
Valtteri.
yep.
Sergio Perez, we reckon's pretty
Almost
well
a
up there.
lock. Yep.
Felipe Drugovich.
Dragovic, yeah, because he got bit by the F2 rule where he can't return to F2 because he...
Suffering from success.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why the rule's there. It is to encourage F1 teams to pick up these drivers, but unfortunately, in the game of musical chairs, he was left without a seat.
Oh, goodness.
Arvid Lindbrandt.
No, he's a lock for Racing Bulls.
Is he?
Yeah, the knowledge I have.
Yeah, and Fred Vesti.
That sounds like that could be likely, yep.
Or what about an American like Logan Sargent?
Well, I think Cadillac like their Cadillacs assembled
Yeah.
and to stay assembled.
I mean,
so-
I imagine he'd be great for testing, just like seeing how many times you can smash a car into a wall. But look, we did, I'm going to throw it back to my girls. We did joke about, maybe he would be more successful in F1 Academy. And then, lo and behold, he made...
We did not do that.
I'm not saying we did, but there was an implication and he ended up being seen in the docuseries. So
okay.
I'm just saying, Logan Sargent, there's plenty of social media spots available in F1 Academy for you.
Is that it for the MotoRap this week?
I think so.
I
Maxi?
think it's a wrap.
Okay. We're going to hear from...
Oh, apart from, hang on, rumour of Kimi Antonelli to Alpine for next season.
Yeah, okay.
Which is
wow.
a weird one. Like just
Yeah,
to free
from
up
Mercedes
to... Yeah.
or to Renault next year.
That's
Oh,
interesting.
yeah, it could be Renault, yeah, sorry.
That's interesting given how almost the jump in success that he's had as a rookie in Mercedes. So I'm not sure if they'd be willing to let him go, honestly.
Yeah.
We'll have to keep an eye on him in the later half of the season.
They want to get
It
Max
would be on a-
Verstappen. though.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
So
As
George
I
Russell.
understand
So
it,
it's going to be another Lewis Hamilton,
Yeah.
Carlos Sainz situation. Yeah. Oh, goodness.
But as I understand, if he is going to Renault or whatever we're calling that team, Team Enstone,
Yeah.
he would be doing so on a loan basis. So kind of like
okay.
George Russell at Williams
Yeah.
or Carlos
Yeah.
Sainz at Renault, funnily enough.
Yeah.
Back-
Cool. You're tuning into 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, your weekly dose of science with me. And we've got Issy,
Hello.
and we're going to hear Gabe. This recording is from the 10th of July last year, and he's talking about exam stress.
But yes, we're going to get into that exam stress because there's some new research that's come out about how the type of room you take an exam in could drop the average mark students get. So we were talking about, I was talking about how I didn't like the lurking teachers. You were
Yeah.
talking about how
It was cold.
it was just
weather.
cold. Yeah. V, you had, I forgot what yours was.
Too many friends.
Too many friends.
Too many friends. That's
He's just too
right. I just
popular.
don't know how to relate to that. That's my
Yeah.
problem. And this comes out of the University of South Australia. QS ranking, anyone?
Flinders? Where?
University of South Australia.
Oh, okay.
112.
Yeah, it'd be 200.
150.
310.
Oh,
as
really?
well, yeah, as well as Deakin Uni.
300.
60.
I think 80.
197
Oh, I'm
for
sorry,
Deakin in
Deacon.
Melbourne. Well, I mean, congrats is to them because I thought that was pretty high from where I remember
is.
Deakin being. And in the last 8 years, they've gone from over 300 to under 200 in their
Okay, that
global
makes more
rank.
sense because I remember I was basing that off the old ads I used to see of them, and I genuinely thought it might be a scam.
Right.
Yeah. You know those
seems like
scam
the-
unis?
A
It seems like they're not anymore.
quasi uni.
Yeah.
Well, just give us some money and we'll send you a piece of paper. Job done.
I was worried about that, but it seems nope, they're now very legitimate. My apologies, Deacon. Congratulations.
Well, 2 years ago, these not quasi researchers investigated people's emotional differences based on the exam room they're in. So they weren't looking at results, they were looking just at your emotional differences. And they found out that students in large exam rooms didn't say their emotions were different, didn't report any difference, but did have different brain activity based on the room they were in
Also,
larger
they
rooms.
asked them and then double checked.
And then fact checked, right? Because self-reported data is crap. And some other differences they had as well. They detected like a changed heart rate variability based on the room size they're in. So the larger rooms with a big sort of change there. And the next natural question is, well, what does that mean in terms of large rooms and your exam results. If it's changing your brain activity and your heart rate variability, what else is it doing? So they went through the results of 15,400 psychology students at an unnamed Australian university.
I wonder if it's Deakin.
Given that the study came out of Deakin University and the University of South Australia, I reckon you could make a safe bet that it might be one of those two.
Yes.
I also had a little gander at the results, and they had trimester data reported. And between those two unis, only Deakin does trimesters. So
right, Deakin.
you do your maths on where this may have come from. But for what it's worth, it is a psychology study in Australia, so all the data were collected in line with pretty strict procedures and has been anonymised for the analysis. So if you're a psych student at Deakin, you're not about to get dragged through anything with your name attached. The exams were from a number of years pre-COVID, well, right up to 2019, so up to COVID. And along with collecting the results of the students taking the test, they also collected the dimensions of the rooms that each test was conducted inside, particularly the total floor area and the height of the room. So pretty cool study because it's real world data from real world students taking real exams. This isn't like an experimental
real buildings.
exam. Yeah, real buildings. So they did have to then be careful about factoring out other things. So they factored out things like admission requirements, age, gender, the unit they were studying.
North, south, east, west, all that.
And north, south, east, west, that's right. Which direction they'd been sleeping the night before, all that sort of stuff. So they factored out the effects of those other factors. And what they found was that there was a small relationship between students having a lower exam score when they were sitting in an exam room with a high internal ceiling height compared to those sitting in a normal, about 2.2 metre high ceilinged room. Which, I mean, we've all had this experience, right? Walking into a massive exam hall and all the desks are laid out in a perfect grid and the ceiling's way up 50 metres above you or whatever.
It's pretty intimidating, yeah.
And it's all echoey and intimidating and there's strange people walking around proctoring you and pretty intimidating thing. So they did find that did lead to a lower average exam score. What they didn't control for, though, was a whole bunch of other stuff that could be associated with a big exam room. So they didn't go, okay, maybe this is insulation related, so it's a different temperature. Exactly
They
right.
were always cold.
Yep. And there is research to show that off ambient temperature, up or low, high or low, can lead to reduced cognitive function. They didn't control for the number of occupants in the room, right? V, you were saying about how, with a small number of people, you got people around you as well. They didn't control for if you're surrounded by friendly faces. And they also didn't, take into account any familiarity that the students had with the room that they were in. They factored out a lot of effects, but not everything that could be related to a high ceiling. But it does point to the fact that it's probably worth thinking about the exam conditions you put students into as a decent sort of effect on what their exam performance is going to be. And the researchers then go on to make a big question about what does that mean for online exams now, when
they seem awful.
The room that you're in is no longer controlled across every student, because at least if every student in your class is in the giant exam room, except for someone who missed it because they're sick or whatever, then at least it's like a standard drop in the overall mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you'll get bell curved to the end of the
Like
day.
everyone's still in the same conditions at the end of the day, whereas when you're dealing with at-home exams, all of a sudden you deal with all these issues of people in lower socioeconomic situations may have worse conditions to take the exam in at home and vice versa, and you can lead to all this other stuff. So they're very curious to see what would happen in online circumstances, and they're also keen to take this outside of the world of psychology students who are often our guinea pigs for studies like this before they go to the general public.
Poor psych students.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, Gabe. No idea. Space news.
I've got a story. Imagine you've gone through all your astronaut training. You've done your medical tests, your physicals, your EVA training, wildlife, wilderness, sorry.
Wildlife?
Water survival, robotics. You've faced seagulls, you've done your training, you're up on the ISS, and then you crack open your first space meal and it tastes like your least favorite cake flavor.
Yeah, okay.
Betrayal. Well,
that is my least favourite cake flavour.
Yeah.
I hate when they have that in stock.
Great view, but bad food.
Bad food.
Yeah.
Well, scientists from RMIT University, which QS ranking...
Number one. I don't know. Where are they? In Melbourne?
RMIT
Yes.
is not number one.
250, I've heard.
Oh, they're pretty low.
386.
60.
Max is close. 1, 2, 3 with that QS ranking. Recently did a study on how common food aromas and oils may help us understand why astronauts report meals tasting bland in space and therefore struggle to meet their normal nutritional intake. So they utilize lemon essential oils, vanilla, and almond extracts to understand how people can perceive changes in normal environments on Earth versus, and this is the part that really got me, when they did this survey, obviously they couldn't send people up to the ISS, so instead they had their participants put on VR goggles to simulate being on the ISS.
Yeah,
So-
that'll do it. That's about the same thing, actually.
Yeah, it's almost exactly the same. So with a sample size of 50 for adults, which is also the first of its kind within regards to like sensory studies, with a sample size that big, they also took into, they, for some reason, they
You haven't strapped more than 54 people with a VR thing? That's
I
nuts.
feel like
Well,
Heston does
first.
that on a casual Sunday.
That's very common.
I think, but I guess in this specific with like aromas and whatever else going on, they also took into account an individual's personal experiences with these specific types of oils and extracts that they've chosen in isolated settings. So obviously if you've had like a traumatic experience with lemon essential oil, I guess, that's also been taken into account. Lead researcher Dr. Julia Lowe from the School of Science said that vanilla and almond aromas were more intense in the ISS simulated environment, whilst the lemon scent remained unchanged.
Okay.
All right, well, let's break that down further. They found that the sweet chemical in the aromas of vanilla and almond, which is benzaldehyde, benzaldehyde, which is also used in a lot of cherry-flavored sodas, apparently. Perfumes, yes, could explain the change of perceptions and an individual's sensitivity to that particular smell. But Izzy, when you're on an airplane, a lot of times the food may taste bland because we are in like a higher altitude, or maybe something to do with like gravity or something cool. No, they they tested stating that astronauts were still not enjoying their food even after taking into account like fluid shift effects, suggesting that there is more to it. So Lowe said that the study could have implications for people living in socially isolated environments as well, so taking into account maybe some degree of social isolation.
Food tastes better with friends. And so it's kind of like this also another implication of the study, which its effectiveness for people who are living in isolated environments on Earth, such as people in nursing homes or people in hospitals as well, who may not see a lot of people. Dr. Lowe says that the results of the study could help personalize people's diets in socially isolated situations and improve their overall nutritional intake. So yeah, maybe if you're a bit lonely, add a little bit of vanilla or lemon or almond to your food and see if that helps perk you up, I guess.
Thanks for that story, Izzy.
What? Yeah, I still think about that story every time I received an almond oil body wash, and I was like, I wonder, am I being socially isolated in the shower?
Nice. No idea. Space news. Back in 1995, a comet called Hale-Bopp was discovered. Comet Hale-Bopp, formerly designated C/1995-01, is a long-period comet that was one of the most widely observed of the 20th century and one of the brightest seen for many decades. So you missed out on that, Issy.
What year was this again?
1995.
95, okay.
Yeah, and 20th century.
So 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 years.
Alan Hale and Thomas Bopp discovered Comet Hale-Bopp separately on July 23, 1995, before it became visible to the naked eye. It is difficult to predict the maximum brightness of new comets with any degree of certainty, but Hale-Bopp exceeded most predictions when it passed on April 1, 1997. Its massive nucleus size made it visible to the naked eye for a record 18 months.
Oh, wow.
This is twice as long as the Great Comet of 1811, the previous record holder.
Did you miss that one, Max?
I didn't know about it. Accordingly, Hale-Bopp was dubbed the Great Comet of 1997. ISS sending another crew. This one's Crew 11. Consists of NASA astronauts Zena Cardman. We got flying as commander, and Mike Fink serving as pilot, alongside mission specialist Kimiya Yu from the JAXA, or the Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency, and Oleg Platonov of the Russian Space Agency, Roscosmos. This will be the first space flight for both Cardman and Platonov, the second for Yu, and the fourth for Fink. NASA's Crew 11 mission is scheduled to launch on the 31st of July, so that's Thursday next week, for those who want to see the Falcon 9 rocket take off. You're tuning to 4ZZZ, and the show is No Idea, but not for much longer. We've got to thank Peta for the weird story about fish parenting. Mm-hmm. We talked about social height with Jay. We heard from Gabe talking about the Mars moss and why would they bother it to grow moss on Mars, but, you know, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, then we had some marine science with shark teeth from Peta. Then Gabe spoke about some exam stress, and of course, Issy
talked about, all things space food.
Yeah, on the ISS, not tasting that good. Anyway, that's it for this week's show. You can listen back to this show on the 4ZZZ website or the podcast if Toby gets around to fixing the beginning of it. That'd be great.
If you know, you know. But yes, if you want all of our stories with none of the music,
that's it.
Anyway, you get your podcast, No Idea, with a K. We'll catch you all next week.
We'll speak to you next week.
See ya.
I'm a goddamn marvel of modern science.